I'm not gonna.
Good to go. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to open this Board of Finance and Public Hearing with Don Griswold. April 29th, 2025, and I've got 6:03 p.m. First, I've been asked to remind everybody on the board that if you want to speak, push button. So before we jump into facts and figures, I wanted to share a little bit of information on kind of the journey that been on with this, where we started, where we are now. We'll jump into some facts and figures and then get into the actual public comment portion of the public hearing. So we're here obviously for the upcoming fiscal year budget. The budget process for us is a continuous changing, evolving process, which for us began in late January. The proposed budget that we're going to discuss tonight was crafted based on information we had at our disposal at the time. And when the process began, we faced a 3.12 mil increase based upon the raw budgetary data as it was presented to us. As of our last meeting, when finalizing the proposed budget for public hearing, we sat at a mill rate increase of 1.42 mils. As of this evening, the current mill increase as proposed is a 1.19 mill increase. This decrease for the 1.42 to the 1.19 accounts for the assumption of the restoration of $47,000 ECS funding that was initially cut. So far, what I understand, it has passed appropriations committee, which typically kind of bring money if we don't make changes. The other reason for the decrease, without any other changes to the budget, was the accounting for the updated revenues resulted from a finalized and certified. That's went through yet again. Those revenue numbers had increased, so that changed things. Based upon a 1.19 mil increase, that would put the mill rate where it's currently at 26.554, would increase to 27.73 dollars. What does that mean for the homeowner? For a house assessed at $150,000, that would be an annual increase of $178.50. For a house assessed at $225,000, that would be an increase of $267.75. And for houses assessed at $300,000, that would be an increase of $357. As I mentioned, the budget process does continue to evolve rather. In fact, just this past Thursday, the board had increased their projected tuition revenues by another $600,000. This puts their projected tuition revenue at $1 million, what is estimated to be the current fiscal year that we're in. Based on the timing though of this information, the additional $600,000 revenues are not reflected in this recommendation. Immediately following this public hearing, this board is going to continue work on the budget, which will include the determination of once you get through the figures, just some housekeeping when we go to public forum. We're going to start with some overviews of the budget comments from both Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education Superintendent of Schools. Upon completion, we'll open it up to public comment. At that point, I request that whoever comes up to speak, that you state both your name and your address for the record, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. So looking at this year's budget, for our total budget proposed is $43,889,860. That is an increase of $1,582,082, or an increase of 3.74% overall. We look at the general government budget, and that is the general government total, which includes the capital, and it includes the debt service, which covers both the town and Board of Education. Total general government is $11,079,001. That's an increase of $613,647, or an increase of 5.86%. Look at the general government, we just break out just the general government operating budget, take out debt service, and we take out capital. We're at $6,510,695. That is an increase of $446,558, or an increase of 7.336%. Look at debt service is coming at $2,794,669. That is an increase of $115,530, or an increase of 4.31%. Capital improvement, they're at $1,773,367. That's an increase of $51,289, or an increase of 2.98%. Board of Education, that $32,810,859. That is an increase of $968,435, or an increase of 3.04%. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to the Board of Selectmen and Superintendent Board of Education. And whoever wants to go first.
Good evening, thank you. I will be brief. As our chair of the Board of Finance indicated when we first started this budget process, it was quite concerning. But I want to say thank you to the Board of Finance and to the Board of Ed and all of the to the Board of Selectmen. There was a lot of work that has been done, a lot of conversation, a lot of consideration. And I would say that for me personally, and I can't speak to the others of my board, but I am happy to see where we're at right now. And I'm comfortable with it if this is as far as it goes. It's much better than the position that we were in. Now addressing very quickly the Board of Selectmen's budget. We tried to come in as clean as we could, and when you look at it, the three things that I do want to point out, there are three things in our budget. Well, two additional positions that we added line items to. One of them being there was quite a bit of conversation and requests were coming in for a full-time grant writer. The other is a new HR director. And the third thing, it's not on the selectmen's budget, but it is in the public works direction budget. A request for a full-time additional employee for the public works department. Somebody else will address that, but what I'd like to address right now, the new HR director, I feel, is critical. Currently, the finance chair and the first selectman are essentially the key people for all personnel issues.
You mean finance director?
Finance director, I'm sorry, I apologize. That's not new title. That's really not the best scenario. Labor laws are constantly changing. And I don't think it's possible for either Eric or myself or whoever sits in this seat to be able to keep up on the current labor laws, and that's important. So I think that an HR director, whether it be full-time or part-time, is critical. The full-time grant writer, I would just like to point out some of the grant monies that have come into the town based on in-house staff committees applying for grants. I had Eric come up with a list this morning, and through USDA, SIP, Petrillo, 5310 grant, Last Green Valley, STEEP, Senior Center USDA grant, Summer Rec, Senior Urban Act grant, Small Cities from McCluggage Manor, Griswold Pride, Senior Center, through the Jewett City Savings Bank, Senior Center ARPA. He came up with a total of, and this is just roughly, over $15 million that we've been able to acquire with in-house effort. I also want to point out that we do have a grant writer on staff, that being the town planner. And in his job description, he is a grant writer. So additionally to what Eric gave me, Mario gave me an updated list for brownfield grants, plastic wiring cable, STEEP, small cities, and his totals were 17 million. I think we do a very good job in-house. Senior center vehicles were always purchased or always obtained through 5310 grants. And that continues to be the case with the new director. I think that grant writer is probably would be last on my list right now to add to staffing with the town. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. The Griswold Board of Education and I remain grateful to the taxpayers of Griswold, and we remain committed to advancing our community through sound investments in our school system. With that in mind, the Griswold Board of Education and I thank the Board of Finance for their continued support of public education throughout the years, and certainly during this budget development cycle. Our budget proposal serves as an investment in our children's future and also as an investment in Griswold, showcasing our town as a place to live and learn in southeastern Connecticut. All of our work on our budget can be located on our website. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that the Board of Education has raised its revenue projection for the next year from 4.2 million to 4.8 million. We are happy to bring this revenue forward during this budget development cycle, and we just hope this increase will be considered. As we move forward together, the Board of Education, our school administrators, our faculty and staff, and I join with you all respectfully to strengthen Griswold's standing as a vibrant, welcoming community for both life and education within the region.
If anyone else wishes to speak. Very good. Sure.
Mary Beth Mallon, 11 Pequot Trail. I'm the chair for the Board of Ed. Good evening, Board of Finance, Board of Education, and audience members. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As always, I do not envy you this time of year, especially with how difficult it is with the changes in the state of Connecticut, with taxes and the increase in fixed costs in all the budgets. At the Board of Ed meeting on March 27, 2025, the Board of Ed approved $400,000 in additional tuition revenue. Last week, the Board of Ed approved the additional tuition revenue of $600,000. The tuition revenue is a unique business model that offers us to self-fund 14% of our budget. I would like to politely request the Board of Finance take into consideration to reinstate funds back into the Board of Ed budget that we were reduced. Reinstating funds back into the Board of Ed budget will prevent cuts to personnel and programs that are vital for the success of Griswold Public Schools. Thank you.
Dr. Jennifer Norman, 257 Norman Road. Dear Griswold Board of Finance, Griswold Public Schools has established itself as a strong regional presence in the educational marketplace, building meaningful relationships with our sending towns and consistently exceeding projected tuition revenue year after year. This growth is not accidental. It is the result of a dedicated leadership, innovative programming, and a school community committed to excellence. In light of the new information presented to the Board of Finance, I respectfully urge you to deepen your investment in the growth and sustainability of our ordinance. To withhold or reduce funding at this critical time would jeopardize essential student services and staffing levels that are more necessary now than ever. As an educator, an administrator, parent, and proud member of the Griswold community, I can attest that failure to maintain support for our school threatens not only our operational capacity, but the future of our town. We risk undoing the tremendous progress led by our superintendent, faculty, and students. Our schools are navigating a complex web of unfunded mandates, rising contractual obligations, and the growing needs of family, all within an increasingly strained political and economic landscape. Griswold Public Schools are the heart and hope of our community, and if we are to build a strong, vibrant, and prosperous future, we must remain resolute in our commitment to providing the very best for our students and family. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Brady?
On the way now, 11 Pequot Trail. The only thing I really want to point out, and I'm glad Tina wrote out those numbers for the grant writer. I'm going to ask for a list of that, the dates and everything, because that's the first time I've heard of those numbers. But my only contention is, I know they want to get another position for Public Works. I would rather see that money go to either a full-time HR director, because a part-time HR director, I think is really going to work. And also go after a grant writer, which they talk to a grant writer, but I think you really should be looking at an economic development director, which also writes grants, which also looks at development for the community and marketing and that kind of experience. Thank you for letting me speak. You guys got a tough job, and good luck.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hey, I'm Tyro Lee. I live in New London, but I have a second home up in room 239 upstairs here. I proudly serve as the president of the Griswold Education Association, our teachers union. And on behalf of all of our teachers, we want to thank the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen for their time and hard work in the budget process this and every year. We know this is tireless work. This past Thursday, I experienced firsthand how this beautiful campus serves as Griswold's community center. Before attending a middle school track meet, I noticed some middle school kids playing basketball on the playground. After the meet, I retrieved our grinders dinner that night and noticed some sort of basketball game or practice going on in the gym. We ate the grinders at the gazebo with the t-ball practice going on around us, and the day culminated with Godspell. Some of the activities I just mentioned were school events and some were not, but these grounds were hopping, just as I hear they are 7 days a week. The school budget should reflect outside activities that use these facilities. The budget should also apply high school tuition money to educational services. Every teacher in each of our schools will no doubt have many examples of the struggles and challenges they face to meet the social and emotional needs of our students every day. This is with an excellent administration and support staff team in each building. However, too many of our students are experiencing difficulties, some heartbreaking. We are also very concerned how challenging it is now to meet the academic needs of our students with our current programs and class sizes, let alone with any less programming and increased class sizes that would result from positions being cut. We respectfully request consideration that all current positions and personnel be held intact. Our most precious commodity, the children of Griswold deserve to have the best services and education possible. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
My name is Nathan Moore. I live in Preston. I teach at Griswold High School. I teach Spanish. Just want to thank everybody who's been involved in the process and echo a lot of the things that were said tonight. I think first and foremost, being in the building and working with youth. There's a point where if the funding continues to be reduced or is reduced from year to year, and we keep chopping away, we could reach a point where there's a point of no return where things can decline really quickly, and we want to make sure that we stay above that. We're continually meeting student needs. I want to thank Superintendent McKenna for always being conscientious and putting together a really comprehensive budget. We live in a society now where there's a lot of talk about wasteful spending, and I can tell you there's no waste. There's no waste in any of this. This is all about our youth. This is about investing in human beings, and it does not have a price tag. So thank you for the time. Thank you to the Board of Finance, Board of Education, Superintendent McKenna, for collaborating and working together. Let's preserve the budget. Let's reinstate funds that they brought in. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody, Lori Sawyer, 67 Ashwood Street, and I'm the warden of the Borough of Jewett City. I just want to come up and kind of advocate for the addition to Public Works. I am basing this on calls that I receive from residents. Most of us probably know some of the complaints about the hours at the Public Works for the disposal. That people are not satisfied with that. I don't know if another person would do, would include raising those hours or giving more hours to that. But I think the most complaints that I get are about snow removal and paving roads. And I think that we have done collectively as a town a nice job in trying to supply more funds for paving, and I've seen that work being done. The work can't be done, in a most efficient manner if there are a finite number of people that are doing that work. Another thing, most importantly, when we had the snowstorms, luckily they were not too many this year, but I got calls and calls and calls, my roads aren't being, so I would reach out to Public Works and ask them, hey, could you send somebody over here, could you do this? And the response that I got were, 2 people have the flu. You get called out at 2 o'clock in the morning with 2 people out with the flu, so you're down to 5 people to plow the roads. Now, I know that, you don't have the flu every day, but somebody is inevitably sick. I think that 7 people in a public works department for a town our size is not sufficient, or if we could call it sufficient, it's not optimal. So I would just advocate for that additional worker at Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else you see? Pat Babbitt, Hill Road, also the Public Works Director. So Lori had spoken about the necessity for the additional employee. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, we had a seasonal maintainer that we had to cut out of the budget because we were requested to go with a 0 increase. So for this time right along, we've been supplementing that with full-time staff for Public Works. So we're losing 1 to 2 people a week, depending on the weather. have some sports organizations that play on weekends, so we try to have to get those fields mowed, maintained, and in shape for the weekend activities. It's tough to, address all the additional demands or requests. Every week, the selectman or the selectman's office will give me a folder with probably 20 or 30 calls that come in on a daily basis, but total for the week is 20 or 30 calls, plus what I get. And the requests are rising more and more as we go along. Residents have a lot more requests. Some of the things we're doing is, dead trees. Everybody calls the tree is a town tree, so they have to go out, they have to determine boundary lines, determine if it's a town tree or a private tree. I think I did 5 of those this week already. It's just the demands are more and more. So if we could support that position, I think we better off. And the other thing I would just advocate for is the road money in the capital budget. I know when we do cutting, a lot of times capital cuts, and that's the first thing that goes, because it's a big number. But as I presented to you a couple months ago about the road study, we're starting to finally make progress. When we started the road study, our road rating was at 62. And off the top of my head, I think we're at 72, 73 right now. So we're starting to make headway. And I showed you on a graph that increasing funding over these years has caused that to happen. If we start cutting that money, we're gonna fall right back to where we were, and really we're throwing money away at that point. So, a lot of people call, when's my road gonna be done, when's it gonna be done? I tell them to show up at these meetings. I haven't heard anybody talk about roads, so they don't advocate for themselves, but I'm trying to advocate for the town. That's part of my job, so we continue to improve road conditions. Thank you.
Good evening, Walsh, 346 Sam Chicken Road. We're talking about roads, I welcome any part of the committee up there to take a ride down Sam Chicken Road. I've been trying for 52 years now, I've lived there, and I can't get anything on there except patches. Every time they do, guess what, patches are gone, the holes are there again. We've been trying. We hear the same thing. We see other roads all done. Like one today, I can see over there, Oakville Road. How much traffic goes down Oakville Road? As opposed to Sam Chicken. We have, Patrick Road coming out of, Sam Chicken right now. They cut across. And you got people at the, over Kenwood. They come across and they go over to 165. But I wish that we could just get a little, momentum going to see some action into it. Instead of saying, well, it's on the board. Well, I'd like to see it get off. And I'd like to see some of the board members take a ride across Sam Chicken Road. See how nice it is complaining. I've lived there a long time. I'm a good taxpayer. I pay my taxes every year. So I appreciate everybody listening. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
This is my first time on one of these things. I live on 334 Sam Chicken Road, next to the Walsh Street. I'd like to know who decides.
Todd, I just don't get your name.
Al Rubino,
Perfectly.
big family in the Dune City area. The Rubino family. I've been on Sam Chicken Road. I'm 83, I've been 65 years on Sam Chicken Road. All they do is come, put a bunch of tar in the holes. And then they leave. My wife's happy because my car's undercoated every time we go somewhere. The road is very bad. I would like to see somebody come up. I know Todd's been there a couple of times and he knows the road better than anybody, but nobody's, we're waiting for a culvert right now. We were promised a the bus drivers, I don't understand why they don't even complain on that road, because it's a bad road. Somebody should go up there and look at the road. That's not asking too much. You just drive the road down the road by the restaurant there, you went all the way down, I don't know, I think we got twice the amount of cars, people taking a shortcut from Preston to, from Bethel Road, they get on Chicken Road. Why don't we just take a count and see how many cars go on that road? Then decide what we can do. And one more thing, Preston, they tarred their road with stone and, twice they did that. I live on the Preston line. They tarred the road and that 15 years and the road's still running good. A lot of people are taking the shortcuts from like even Patrick Road, like Mr. Walt said, but that we're not getting nothing. All we get is and in fact, every 2 weeks, the trucks are up there, God knows that. And you know what they bring? They bring a shovel on the truck. That's how much tar they're using on the road. Nobody's gonna drive that road. If you go by the horse farm there, nobody drives on the left-hand side because it's so bad, they're driving on the opposite side. So, somebody should go, if you want some pictures, we'll take the pictures and have somebody decide what to do. It's a bad road. It's one of the worst roads in Jute City. And I've been on that road over 60 years. And nothing's been done. We are waiting for a culvert now. From what we heard from whoever's in charge of doing the roads. I don't even know who decides to do the roads.
Mr. Rubino, I thank you. I hope that your sentiments are heard. We've got the board of selectmen represented over there as well as the public works director. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, Mary Mayor, 2 Pulaski Street. I'll raise Mr. Walsh, Mr. Reno, 1 road better, Pulaski Street. I will advocate, Mr. Babbitt and I don't always see eye to eye, but I will advocate for that public works position, something I don't usually do in this town. But the roads do need to be done. I agree with Sam Chicken, whatever you call him. That was bad, but so is Pulaski Street. That road has not been done in better than 50+ years. I understand it's on the block, but this summer, hopefully it is. You also have to replace the water line. I was just informed that's gonna take 4 to 6 weeks. That road is extremely narrow. It's got 90-degree angles. I just wish Mr. Babbitt good luck on that road. You have no place to park. Everybody on the hill has to park in the street. In the winter, it's a real pain in the butt for the snow plow. I leave my driveway open sometimes so they can back in. Sometimes I get a good plow driver, sometimes I don't. But I will, along with Mr. Rubio and Mr. Walsh, advocate for a public works person to fix the roads. I would much rather see that position than the increase to the board. The board, they ask for money every year, every single year. They have great programs, but if you look, our scores are totally in the toilet. So I'd rather have a position where my roads are better than our scores. I'd rather see teachers teach them reading, writing, and math, because we have gotten away from that. So my part is for the town, not the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and I'm going to close this, we're planning to do a public hearing at. Yeah, 30 seconds. You want to try to move? Take a look.
That's right. Want to see me? Want a better look at
I wouldn't expect it to be. All right, ready? Everybody ready?
No, we're gonna start a new. Of course, we were ready, now we're not. Here we go, yeah.
Start it over.
Yeah. Let me know where.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this special meeting of the Town of Griswold Board of Finance to order the Griswold Middle School cafeteria at 6:40. First time on the agenda, roll call to order.
All members present.
Okay, second item, old business discussion and possible action on fiscal year 25-26 budget. So as we ended the public hearing, we're gonna have the additional $600,000.
Yes. So we got a couple quick questions for clarity as we went through some of that. So we were originally at 1.42, correct?
Correct.
And then you came up with the 1.19.
Correct.
That was before that 600,000?
Correct.
Correct.
That's as a result of, re-examining the brand list, certifying that, and then accounting for. Okay.
Okay. All right, that was my first question. Second question. As of right now, we had the full-time employee for Public Works in there, correct?
Yes,
We had part-time HR director in there
yes.
and grant writer also part-time. Was already in there at that mill rate?
Yes.
Was the grant writer full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
Jim?
That was-
Yes,
that
sir.
was all I had.
Go ahead, sir.
Just to review, the only things that we had cut was 9,000 from the general government for the election board. Because there was some discrepancy there, and then 560,000 from the school budget.
And then 500 from capital. that
Capital,
we
right,
utilize
but we-
over by policy.
Right, so we were refunding that, so there was, in essence, no cuts from general, I mean, from the capital budget. Because we were refunding it. So
Correct.
all the paving that they had scheduled for this year is gonna be done. And according to, so leaving it at 1.19, everything was funded for the general government. That they want.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so for the
So,
registrars.
yeah.
except for the registrar, but we believe that that's a rolling over that they accounted for last year also. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So, I'll make a motion that we, out of the 600,000 that's coming back, that's being given to us, through the raise in tuition, that we put that back into the Board of Ed general budget, and put them at restore the 560,000 they were cut, and that will leave us an extra 40,000 to reduce the mill rate.
So you're asking for 540,000 back into the Board of Education?
What we cut them, put back in 500, the 560,
560.
yeah, the 560. And the reason why I asked that is I cannot, in good conscience, see, positions cut at the school,
We have a list of positions that are cut.
not right now.
So
but
before
they
we
will.
go into discussion, we have a second on that motion.
Oh, sorry.
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Continue, Gary. We have a list of.
Can you use your microphone, please? Thank you.
Do we have a list of cuts that on the Board of Education, had?
Show it under that.
We're not, because of the personnel, we're not allowed to talk about that in this session. This would involve a combination. of 3 certified positions, host of uncertified positions. I think it's contractual language, we can't specify positions in open session.
So you have you're saying 3
So
certified.
I said 3 certified positions, there's 6 paraeducators. There's a few other uncertified positions, I just can't list the location, I can't list the building and the exact position due to contractual language.
And that's based on the 560.
Correct, yes.
Sean, in regard to, positions, I know you can't discuss, but do you have any retirements that if not filled, would not put someone out of a job, but, could be used to, save some of the budget money?
That has actually already been calculated into consideration. We have retirements that we calculated to the budget that we anticipated. I'm glad you asked that, and that has already been considered. We would do that first, so that we wouldn't have to give someone notice of a non-renewal. So that's already been taken care of.
And my second question is, we always have at least one eye on the number that if we go up to a certain number in one year, then we're penalized if we fall below that number in subsequent years. What does the 560, how does that bring that number up? What's the differential from last?
So I think Scott talked about it. It would be a 3.4% increase over this year's budget.
Three point four or 3.7?
I thought it was 3.4.
No,
If you-
3.0, yeah.
0.04, I apologize.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Eric, see it back to $40,000.
40,000 would be about 5/10 of that.
Five tenancies, 90,000, 610.
Yes, you
Okay.
are correct.
Yes.
So.
Five. 500, I was just like, wow.
My apologies.
Eric, how much did we, look at to take from, reserves?
550,000.
And what does that leave us percentage wise as far as within the range of goal?
That'll leave us projected at the end of the year to be right around our 19%.
Mr. Chairman, and that's why we utilize that money towards capital, because that was in excess of the max that we had for the year. The reserve.
Ready for the discussion?
Mr. Chairman, in regard to the discussion, related to the motion that's on the floor, I do support putting back some of the money that we cut. I'm not certain I support putting it all back, because taking so much, from the reserves, we've always had a philosophy that we only do that when we really don't have any other options. And we also know that next year is going to be a very difficult budget year, and so, if we take the full 500,000 out of reserves, then we're starting 500,000 in the hole when we're working on next year's budget. Because we have a budget that needs to be funded, and we needed to take that 500,000. And I'm concerned that as we go down and we do have, some other debt obligations, that we might be, digging a little too deep into the reserves.
Okay. Just a clarification, that 500,000 is above our maximum that we need to use. So that we're not at our maximum. So that's an excess. That's why we utilize it to draw towards capital. And it won't build a hole for us for next year. If we use it towards a general government budget, it would create a hole that we have to fill for next year, but not towards our capital. That's why we were utilizing it at that time. So it does not put us in a deficit for next year.
I don't agree, we still will have to fund the budget plus whatever next year's increase will be. And if we've already taken 500,000 from reserves, it begs the question, where does that additional 500,000 come from next year? And we're not required to take and apply the reserves that are over the 19%, are we?
No. You're not required, but per the policy, the suggestion is when you're over to use it for either debt service or cap.
Debt service or capital?
Yeah.
Discussion? Floor is to take 560,000 and put it back into the board bed with 40,000.
Put us in the middle grade with that.
$1.14.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah.
1.14.
Let's say.
Get it down to 1 mil. How much more would that be?
Gary, I can tell you that.
About 100.
200,000.
But then, Scott, that was including not the whole 560.
Any further discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I support somewhere in the range of 300 to 350, but the full 560.
There's not anything else.
I have a question for Eric. Eric, you know that the revenue that have been recalculated based on the grant list have shifted for us, in a good way. And, the Board of Ed came in with, revenues, for special ed, and increase of, it looks like 600,000.
Yep.
What happens if those revenues don't come in as projected, whatever?
If we don't meet our revenue numbers and our expenditures come in exactly as budgeted, then it would come out of our surplus revenues, our unassigned fund.
Also,
Hey, you got the two figures, because we can go ahead and we can make that motion.
I do, the general government budget is $11,079,001. And the Board of Ed budget is $33,370,859.
So 11,007,9001.
11,079,001.
All right, three zeros. Thank you.
and what was Board of Ed, please?
33,370,859.
If somebody would like to make a motion, ready to make a motion, then you're gonna have to talk about each dollar.
Yes.
Kind of meeting.
Mr. Chairman. Make a motion to send, the following budget to town meeting.
To the board of selectmen. Okay.
to the Board of Selectmen for a town meeting. General government budget of 11,079,000 for general government and 33,370,859.
I'll second that motion.
Sorry, for vote for fiscal year ending
25-26.
25-26, June 30th, 2026.
I'll second that motion.
Maybe we have a first and second, any discussion? Again, we're gonna vote, all in favor, any opposed, motion carries. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.